Welcome back, gentlemen. There's another video in this series, the self-worth series of being enough, right? So again, as always, we're going to hop right into it. I don't want to waste your time. Validation will never, ever come from others. It won't. It's not going to come from others. And what I mean by that, and someone might start and say, well, yeah, of course it'll come from others. People will say, good job, great work, whatever. Let's give this a reward, this prize, or whatever the case may be. Those are external validators, right? We're talking about intrinsic validation, the one that actually matters the most, the one that actually drives you and really has you your confidence and allows you to interact and be true to yourself. That stuff is never going to come from anybody else. It's not going to come from your wife, no matter how many compliments she gives you, no matter how smart she says you are, how much of a good father, how much of a good husband. It will not come from her. It'll feel nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to change the internal environment. No matter how much your kids say it, or your boss, or your friends, or your community, or your coworkers, whoever it is, right? Or your employees, no matter who it is, that validation that's external will not fill that void we have on the inside. It will not. It will never be enough. And sometimes it can be actually draining in other people, depending on how you talk about yourself. Because some people, they get validated and, they say, oh gosh, I'm not that great. No, if I was that great, I would do this or I would do that. And then they would start complaining. And it's like, okay, after a while, people stop like, he's just going to cry about it. He's just going to whine about it. He's going to tear himself down. I don't really want to be around somebody like that. Why doesn't it work? Ask the question, why does external validation not work? Because the beliefs you have about yourself, that's why. Those will matter the most. So if you because here's the thing, if you believe you're great already, you don't need external validation. If you believe you look good already, you don't need external validation. That stuff's icing on the cake. If you know you kill it at your job, you don't need someone to tell you you killed it on your job. You already know you killed it on your job. So it's nice to have external validation, especially when there's some type of monetary value and stuff like that tied to it. Like you killed on your job, you get a big bonus. That's great. We love that. But guess what happens if you kill it on your job and you don't get a big bonus and you know your worth? Guess what you do? I'm going to go somewhere where I can get what I'm worth. Don't people say that? I'm going to go someplace that values me. They know my value. But here's the thing. In order for you to get to that place, you have to know your value, which means you have to validate yourself to know that I'm valuable. Otherwise, it won't work. And that's why external validation does not work. If you don't believe it, doesn't matter what anybody else says. If you think you're ugly, it doesn't matter how much your wife says you're handsome and this and that, you still think you're ugly. If you think you're fat, which, although that can actually be measured, so maybe that's a different topic. But in any case, let's say you're not fat, but you're in it, but your wife's like, oh, you look great, yada, yada, whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, oh, you look great. You're still going to think, man, I'm fat. There's body dysmorphia. That's a whole diagnosis in the DSM-5, right? So, but that's your belief that keeps you trapped. That's why external validation doesn't work. And it's also why external validation is not necessary. If I know I'm killing it in something, I don't need someone to tell me I'm killing it. If I'm on the football field playing and I got, 10 carries for like 300 yards, you don't have to tell me, oh man, Keith, you're so good. Oh my God. You don't got to tell me. If no one said anything, I'll be like, yeah, I know I killed it. I know I contributed. I don't need someone to tell me I did great if I know I did great because of what I believe on the inside. So that's the key with this one, right? So understand that validation will never come from others and they will not work anyways. If you don't believe you have any value, if you don't see your own worth, then guess what? It doesn't matter what anybody says. You're still going to feel exactly the same. So the take home message with this video is stop seeking that outside validation. Stop looking for it from the outside because it's not going to work. And don't place a burden on somebody else to try to make you feel better about yourself. And here's the other thing. Let's just say, I'm going to play devil's advocate, right? Although it's still not going to work, but just play, follow along. Let's just say all the praises on the outside did work, but now you have another issue, another problem. Your issue is, well, what happens? I like how this feels. What happens if I'm not, knocking out the park 7 days a week, 24 hours a day? What happens if that happens? Oh, the praise is going to be pulled. The validation is going to be pulled. No one's going to want me. No one's going to love me. No one's going to care about me. So now what this puts you on is this path to constantly seeking outside validation. You keep going out and seeking that outside validation. And again, it works until it doesn't, because everybody at some point in time, we got to hand the torch off. Depending on what your industry are, a lot of industries, you kind of got to hand the torch off eventually, right? And if new people are going to come along and new music and new songs and things like that. And a lot of the people I used to listen to back when in the 2000s and in the late 90s and things like that, they're not doing that anymore. Most of them are not. A majority of them are not. Some kind of keep going or they're in it in some other type of way or form, but they're not doing it anymore. Dr. Dre's not rapping anymore. Snoop Dogg's not rapping anymore. A lot of these rappers are not doing that anymore. 50 Cent's not doing that stuff anymore. Right? But imagine if they sought that validation from the outside. I need people to think I'm great. I need people to love me. I need people to care about me. All these things like that. And then now they're in their 50s, and 60s on stage trying to rap and I need people to it'll be like, bro, it's kind of past your prime, bro. Like we good on that. Like you good. Like you could rest. You're done now, right? You're not going to get the same effect. You're not. So that's the other side of it. That's the dangerous part. So even if it were to work, it still wouldn't work because now you're on this hamster wheel trying to please everybody, trying to make everybody happy, trying to do the next thing, song and dance and all those things like that. Where if you just knew who you were and you knew your value wasn't tied and your worth wasn't tied to what you were doing externally, then you won't have to worry about that. So then you can move on to the next phase. Okay, I'm done rapping. I'm done playing sports. I'm done doing therapy. I'm done teaching. I'm done doing that. What's the next thing? I can move on to it. I can lay that to the side. It's okay to close that door, that chapter of my life. It was nice when I had it. Now I can move on. But that's the power of knowing your own worth and your own value. Because if you're not seeking it outside, you can come and go and do as you please and go anywhere and do anything you want. Because why? Because your value is not tied to what other people are saying. You know that in your internal worth, your internal value. So it's so critical to understand this point. Your value and your validation does not come from other people. It will not work. It has to come from you. And if it's blocked in you, you need to start changing your beliefs about yourself. Tell yourself a different story. Instead of saying that I'm worthless and nobody cares or anything like that, what you need to say is, I know my worth. I know my value. I love myself. I'm worthy. I deserve to be here. Or whatever affirmations you want to come up with, you need to tell yourself that and tell yourself that with emotion. Tell yourself that with power and with confidence and over again. So it rewires your brain and breaks that old belief and tell yourself that new story. Then guess what? Now you know I don't got to put on for anybody. And some people we're putting on for, trying to keep them in our life and it's destroying you. You need to cut that person off. But in any case, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Long story short, your validation is not going to come from others. It's only going to come from you. And now you know how to break that. And so listen, we'll be back with another video in this series. Again, we want to hit on every single point possible to make sure you know your value and you know your worth and that you intrinsically give it to yourself and stop trying to put on for others. All right. Y'all take care. Have a great, awesome, and blessed day. And I'll see you in the next one.